Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video. So today I'm finally going to be completing my 4th year experience in pharmacy school. I know that I filmed a video about, a recap on my 4th year experience, but I didn't complete it to the second semester because I didn't know at that time what was going to happen with the second semester. I filmed it when I was on a break, when all the unfortunate circumstances started to happen. That affected me as a student as well and affected a lot of students everywhere in the world. So we had to take a break before we knew how, the trajectory of the year was going to happen. But now that I'm clear on that, I'm going to be making this video to let you guys know how it went down and what happened during the second semester, during the start of this whole, chaotic experience that we're all in right now in the world. So stay tuned to know how it went down, what happened, how I felt, and how the term ended. Right, so we had 7 courses that we had to study. Most of them were completely new to us. So for that year, we had to study bioassay, pharmaceutical chemistry 2, pharmaceutics 4, first aid, pharmacodynamics, and toxicology. Now for all of these courses, luckily I studied them really well because the entire term went on smoothly and nicely like it would any other term, but at the end of it we just didn't have to take finals. So that was the only difference. And for me, I didn't really mind the fact that we stayed home. I actually liked it because I didn't have to commute and I didn't have to wake up super early for anything really, because we didn't have a lot of live lectures. Most of them were sent to us, so I wasn't obligated to wake up at a certain time, except for like certain labs that we had to attend, and they had certain obviously timetable for them, but that wasn't really a problem for me because I was someone who attended each single lecture and everything I had to attend in the flesh. So when all the changes happened and we had to stay at home and take all of our courses and lectures from home, that was a huge relief to me. So yeah, we're going to go over each course briefly. So bioassay was basically just a lot of graphs and statistics, but it didn't dive deep yet because in 5th year we kind of dove deep into so many topics. But in 4th year bioassay, for example, it was more about clinical studies and certain statistical aspects of pharmacy, but it wasn't really bad. The next one is first aid. I would say this is one of the most helpful subjects that I ever had to study in my life, really. I personally encourage you, if you're anyone in the world who studies anything, you have to study first aid in any way, shape or form. I bet that there are so many videos on YouTube that you can watch to learn about this subject. First aid is completely accessible to anyone and it is super helpful to everyone in the world. So we have to study how to help someone who's fainting, help someone who is in an accident, and how to intervene in an accident without making the situation worse. So how to intervene without hurting yourself and without hurting others or hurting the subject further, because sometimes people get an injury, but when others try to help, they make it even worse. So if the injury was localized in one place, if anyone is trying to move the subject, they can injure that person further. So that was something that they put a lot of emphasis on during the course of first aid. So I enjoyed studying it. However, I was so pressured to understand every single detail because I felt like I was responsible for each accident in the world. I felt a lot of pressure to understand it and be good at it and kind of grasp every single technique under the sun. So that was first aid. The next course is pharmaceutics 4, and we had taken pharmaceutics 1, 2, 3, and this was the 4th time we took pharmaceutics. I honestly don't remember exactly what it was about, but it was definitely about formulations, about testing formulations. I'm not really sure what it was about, but I think it also had a mathematical aspect to it, and we had a lab that went with it. So most of these courses had a lab that went with it. So we had lectures, labs, and then we had to take a final and oral exam, which were cancelled and replaced with a paper, as I told you. But we still had to finish all the lectures and all the labs and attend them all. Then there's pharmacodynamics, which is similar to what I was speaking about. We had to take a lot of lectures, and then we would also have to take parallel labs. In the labs, we could do presentations. So if we were speaking about the metabolism of certain medications and how they leave the body and how they get absorbed, and pharmacokinetics, absorption, distribution, metabolism, and all of those things. So we had to study each and every aspect of pharmacokinetics, not only theoretically but also mathematically, because each and every one has their own equations, a lot of equations actually to do with absorption, a lot of equations to do with excretion, and different medications or substances would have different ways to be excreted from the body, because some of them like to stay in an organ long enough before they get excreted. So different aspects of that. It was challenging because any subject that has math in it, I'm not super passionate about that. However, I took it as a challenge and I took it upon myself to ask for help and get the help I needed for this particular course. And I remember that I got a super high grade in that course and that I really understood it really well. So each course had a midterm exam as well. I took the midterm and got the full mark in that. So in pharmacokinetics we also had a lot of labs, and at the end of the labs we would have a practical exam. The practical exam was not really practical in that we wouldn't do a lot of experiments, hands-on experiments, but we would do a lot of graphs and equations and all of those things. We would take, the first order kinetics, the second order kinetics, and all of those things. And then there was semi-log kind of graph and, different types of graphs. This was the first time for me to expose myself to all of this information at once. But I took it upon myself to really educate myself and take my time with this particular course, and I'm glad I did, because in senior year I had to study that subject again, but in a more advanced way. So if it weren't for my challenge in fourth year, I wouldn't have been able to fully understand and grasp the course that I'm going to speak to you guys about in my fifth year. Yeah, that was pharmacokinetics. Next we have toxicology, which was the first time for me to ever study this course. When people go over their dose in certain medications, how we give them an antidote, and how to save the situation, how toxicology works in general is that it tries to detoxify patients when they get admitted to certain centers or hospitals. Aspirin, for instance, we would study its structure, because when someone would take a lot of it, we need to give them something to counteract it. So something to kind of chelate aspirin and not let it kind of spread further in the body of the patient. So I loved the logistics behind it, and I loved that it was based on chemistry, but it wasn't super detailed like organic chemistry, for instance. It was just more practical. And then there's also another aspect of it, forensic medicine. Also, we studied that as a part of toxicology. So I really appreciate the fact that I was exposed to this information. It taught me a lot and opened my eyes to different aspects of pharmacy. It was the first time for me to ever consider forensic medicine and look at medications in this way. It wasn't easy to study, but it was interesting, so that's a positive. I don't think any of the courses were easy to study, however, they're really interesting and really helpful. So toxicology was definitely one of those. So for each and every course, as I told you guys, we had to take a midterm, we had to take a practical, we had to take labs, except for, I think, first aid. I don't think we took labs for first aid. It was just theoretical. So the next course is Pharmaceutics 2. What it stands for is that it studies in detail certain medications and medication classes. So it's like pharmacology, but it's more based on the chemistry of the medication. Pharmacology is more based on how you use that certain medication and when to kind of administer it. However, pharmaceutics, it has a certain aspect of pharmacology in it, but it's very small, tiny portion. A huge portion, however, has to do with the chemistry of the medication and why it was developed in this manner. So, when people come up with the idea of making a medication for a certain disease, so we took antibiotics and different classes of antibiotics. So we took penicillin and all of its, siblings and how they came about. So the chemical reaction and like removing a certain group to attach another group and how they came about. The whole class of medication of penicillins. And then there is also another class of cephalosporins. So we would study that as well in detail, and how their chemical reactions would happen in the body, outside of the body, in the container, and why we didn't choose this certain formulation for penicillin and how we chose another one and why. On this channel, I think I've been vocal about how much I hated organic chemistry. So unfortunately, I didn't really enjoy pharmaceutical chemistry because it's based on organic chemistry. However, that will change in fifth year, so I'm going to let you know what happened later in fifth year when we come to that. Right, so this was the second term of the fourth year. As I told you guys, I am going to be speaking to you about my fifth year experience and the modules and everything like I did this one. I didn't want to bore you with details upon details of information about my curriculum, because I think that could be quite boring to a lot of people who are not studying the exact same kind of modules or courses that I've been studying over in fourth year. By the way, I'm sorry about the noise. I'm trying to capitalize on the fact that the sun is out and alive. So I'm filming right next to the window. I try to cut out the noises, but this can only go so far. So since this is the second semester in fourth year, you need to watch the previous video that I filmed about the first semester to get the full picture. I'm not going to speak about the fifth year in this video yet because I don't want to make it super long. So this is going to be enough for this video. I'm going to cut this video and make another one for fifth year, which is the last year. So stay tuned for that. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do so by clicking the button right below this video, the red button. Be sure to click on the bell right next to that button to get notified every time I upload a video. Until I upload the next video, please make sure that you skim through my channel and see any other videos that you would enjoy. I have so many videos about pharmacy school, about study tips in general for everyone and anyone, and I have so many study vlogs if you would like to see those, and just random vlogs. So stay subscribed for that, and please give this video a like so that I know that you like this type of videos, and I'm going to see you in the next one.